Molly Knight, the Los Angeles Dodgers, have always been one of Major League Baseball's crown jewels. But as you explain in your book, The Best Team Money Can Buy, they fell into disrepair, even bankruptcy, under the Frank McCourt administration. How did this happen?
Well, you have an owner who wants to spend lavishly and doesn't have his own side business to fund that. That's how it happened. He used the team as his own personal ATM. He built multi-million-dollar mansions all over the country. He even transported a kitchen across the country from Boston to Los Angeles, private jet on standby, paying a Russian physicist to sit in his house in Boston and think blue to help the team win. It was just wasteful spending.
Enter Guggenheim Partners, a financial firm who swoops in and buys the team for $2.15 billion. Right. That's a record. They have Magic Johnson on board, an LA icon. Why did they make this decision?
The TV money. They saw a team that was undervalued. I think Forbes said they were worth $900 million, and said the Dallas Cowboys were the most valuable. But the Dallas Cowboys can't launch their own regional television network and charge advertisers and hold those games exclusively. They have to split the revenue equally with 31 other NFL teams. The Dodgers went ahead and started their own network about 18 months after the Guggenheim Group took over, and they got over $8 billion for it. So the $2.15 billion was a pretty good investment.
Let's stay in Texas for a second, because you were in the Texas home of Clayton Kershaw when he signed the most lucrative deal for a pitcher ever, $215 million. Tell me about his reaction.
It was surreal. It was just the two of us sitting at his house. We set up an interview to sit down for the book, and I just happened to be there on the day he got the call that his contract had gone through, and his wife was out getting groceries, and he just sort of answered the phone. He had his backward cap on, and he was just kind of like, wow, this is awesome. Thank you, thank you. It was his agent, and then he hung up the phone and was just like, okay, let's continue to do the interview. And I thought, if that were me, I'd be like I'd be grabbing the champagne and running around the house and calling all my friends, but he was just very matter of fact, like, well, everyone who needs to know already knows, let's go ahead and do the interview. And I couldn't believe how composed and calm he was. I think part of it is he just doesn't, all that money kind of makes him uncomfortable. He's not going to go buy new cars, new watches and all that because of it. And I think also he's just so focused, and that's why he's the best pitcher in the world.
Sparks did fly, however, when Yasiel Puig hit the team in 2013. Mm-hmm. Great performance on the field, but he kind of disrupted things in the clubhouse.
Right.
Can you talk about what happened with his arrival, and also talk a little bit about how Moneyball, when it's all about stats and the whole Billy Beane thing, what does that mean when you have a guy who's a great hitter, but he really disrupts the team?
Right. So with Puig, when he came on the scene, he'd only been in the minors for like a minute and a half, it felt like. He should have been down there longer to help him mature. He comes from Cuba. He doesn't really understand a lot about American culture. And he's just a young kid. He was 22 years old, and it was a huge change for him. But the team was in last place, and Don Mattingly, their manager, was about to get fired. Their GM, Ned Colletti, would have been right behind him. This Guggenheim Group had just spent all this money. They didn't want a loser, so they rushed him up, and then he hit like Joe DiMaggio. He had the best rookie month of anyone since Joe G did. And because that happened, he didn't go through the normal rookie hazing paces thing where he was told to sit still and be good and all the things they tell rookies. No, he took over the locker room. He was alpha dog from day one. And they all were sort of guilty of his shoddy upbringing in a way. They were all like desperate for him to provide a spark. And when that happens, he's smart enough to know what he can get away with and to kind of push it a little bit. I think parents out there can relate when they have a child who they don't police early on. They let him stay up until whatever he wants and eat candy, and then try to rein it in a year later, and it doesn't happen. But that being said, he's an amazing baseball player, right? I mean, if he hits like he did that year, no one can really say anything because he's a 5-WAR player. He's got speed, power, his arm's incredible. So that's sort of the conundrum. And as far as chemistry goes, I asked some of the guys, does it matter? Is it causing losses? Is his showing up late or going into the locker room and fiddling with his phone between innings and being the last guy on the field? Is that causing you guys to lose? And I get mixed answers. I used to think it didn't matter at all, but when you're enraging your pitchers, especially who are like ready to start an inning and like where's the right fielder, like it's not good. That being said, he hasn't like done anything criminal, like nothing that like force his way out of town. So.
And he's been a little bit better this year.
Yeah, and lately actually he's been showing up to batting practice early and trying. So I think he does care about what his teammates think of him. So I think he'll clean it up.
And then after spending all this money on Puig, on Kershaw, on the team, upgrading the stadium as well, the Dodgers still lost in 2013 and 2014 to the Cardinals in the playoffs. So was this money well spent in the end?
That's a great question. It hasn't been spent as well as it could have been spent. And I think what they're learning and what everybody is learning is it's not about how much money you have, it's how smart you are in where you spend it and how you choose to spend it. And they're getting there now. I think one of the smartest things they've done is shell out for a really, really strong front office. I think if you can spend $7 million a year or whatever they're paying Andrew Friedman, I think that's about what they're paying him. He's the best GM. He's one of the best minds in the game, widely respected, on the forefront of analytics, but also has people skills and can relate to players. That's money way better spent than on some long reliever or back end of the rotation guy. And they filled their front office with former GMs. So I think they're on the road and they're getting there.
All right.
Yeah.
Well, thanks a lot. Congrats on the book.
Thank you so much for having me.
And thank you for watching The Street.